Good evening, Yellowjackets fans. I'm Anchorpete, and I'm here with my wife, Shari T.
Good evening.
Yes, and oh boy, we are ready to talk about Yellowjackets, episode 6, which was entitled Saints. On this show, on the Anchorpete channel, we like to talk about the movies, TV shows, books that you might have heard, but not enough people are talking about. And so Yellowjackets is one of our personal favorites, and we just want to keep that buzz going. So anyway, this is going to be a spoiler-filled episode. If you have not seen Yellowjackets episode 6, just go watch it on Showtime. Come back and join us. Okay? You ready?
Yeah. So I want to start this session with you with an apology.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, with an apology because I'm going to get right to it. The big reveal of this episode, Taissa has been getting in a tree and eating her hand.
Oh, man.
Or, maybe other things happen sometimes when she gets in the tree, but in this particular reveal, she had gnawed on her own hand, was in some sort of trance, which at least I was right about, that she does have some sort of other personality going on. But I laughed at you about her getting in the tree, but she's getting in a tree.
Not so ludicrous that she was literally in the tree.
Well, it's pretty crazy. She has some serious issues.
Yeah. So,
and she's going outside her child's window and scaring him.
Not intentionally, right?
I know, but how bad are your issues that you don't even know you're doing that?
Well, I think they're pretty bad because why do you think that she bit her own hand? Do you have a theory?
Either the kind of cannibalism, hunger for flesh thing that we aren't sure how that even comes about on the show yet, or just being upset and not even realizing, but you're biting down, kind of the bear down of the title of episode 4, I believe.
Yeah. I think that in her kind of trance state, she's looking at her son through the window. She's thinking about eating him. She bites her own hand so that she does not bite her son. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
See, I want to say that's ridiculous, but
she's in a tree.
But she's in a tree, and I thought it was ridiculous last week when you were saying that, and it's happening. Wow, you think she wants to eat her kid?
I think that it's a thing of looking at prey, and so he's probably the closest thing to acceptable prey if we're talking about cannibalism. So yeah, that's what I think.
That's deeply disturbing.
This episode had a lot of deeply disturbing things. That's the title of the. Hey, you did the thumbnail. You threw it in there. That's awesome.
I did that.
Yeah, this had many, many disturbing things. I think the absolute worst thing was the weird rat chicken baby that Shayna gave birth to. You thought it was a turkey?
A rotisserie.
It was a rotisserie that she gave birth to. They cut the umbilical cord, and she took a nice little drumstick and took a bite out of it.
Yeah, and hopefully, like Pete said, you guys have watched this, so you know that this was just a dream.
Yes.
Shauna did not give birth to a rotisserie.
Yes.
Chicken.
She didn't go to Sam's Club or,
She did allude to having various dreams of giving birth to some type of food. She also mentioned a cheeseburger.
A cheeseburger baby at some point. But that was pretty disturbing,
Was it more disturbing that she gave birth to that or that she took a bite of it? They're clearly having hunger issues.
The bites.
Right? And in various ways, it's manifesting itself that they're having hunger issues and it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal.
And her hunger issues are even more so because she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that was one of about, I'd say, 4 pretty disturbing sequences this episode, right?
Yeah, this was quite the episode. What else? Shauna going into the woods to...
Yeah, have a coat hanger abortion.
Yeah, and I mentioned this to Pete during that scene. I have always heard of coat hanger abortions, but I've never seen it on TV or a movie trying to actually show it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how that works. I hope it's not just as cut and dried as it seemed. I would think it'd have to be a little bit more intricate.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is I think the only time I've ever seen that even referenced in a movie, that happens in Dirty Dancing, right? Doesn't the girl go to give herself a coat hanger abortion and the dad has to help her?
No.
Right,
that's not what happens. She gets a doctor who's not a good doctor.
Oh, okay.
And he messes up. And then baby has to go get her dad to help her get the proper abortion.
All right. I won't reference movies that I saw when I was 5 years old on the show, if need be.
You haven't seen Dirty Dancing since you were 5
As an adult, I have not. But
We need to remedy that.
Yeah, I didn't really know what was going on in the movie, but apparently I don't even know what was going on now. So.
Well, I mean, unless maybe you've gone through a coat hanger abortion, who would know? You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was pretty awful. I mean, I put my hands up to my mouth like this like 4 times in this episode because it was like upsetting. Yeah, that was pretty bad. She didn't go through with it. She was saying, ow, 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 that hurts. So I don't know if they maybe accomplished something that maybe she will miscarry now that they did whatever they did. I think it's interesting that Taissa's right there to help, you know?
Well, I thought that was good filmmaking because she goes and she sees the discarded bra on the floor. She checks and she sees it like there's missing lining. She doesn't say anything. It's not like,
underwear.
Oh, no. What?
Missing underwear. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not an expert on bras. But, you know,
this is a very like feminine show. Like in a way, they bring up a lot of issues that girls know about. You know?
And actually, that's a good point. You guys do an amazing job with the comments, and boy, do we love that. That makes us so happy at the beginning of each week. And remember, I did the call to action last week for telling us what happened with the tampons or anything like that. And boy, did we get a whole. Just someone just signed out when I said that. But what do you call it? We got a whole bunch of responses about those rags being clean. So thank you for educating this man on this kind of stuff. But yes, I'm enjoying this show, and I think it's just so cool seeing these teenage girls all trying to survive in the middle of the wilderness, and they still kind of have that high school mindset, but they're also trying to like just live in this crazy setting. So I'm totally on board, you know?
Yeah.
And we can go back to the discussion of the coat hanger abortion because that's so fun, right? But after we bring up one other real important point, the show got renewed for season 2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It was announced that the show has been renewed, which does that affect what you think is going to happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah. Well, okay. We'll put a little pin on the coat hanger abortion thing and then go back to the, okay. Very first scene in this episode. Very first scene. You got Lottie as a little girl in the back seat, and her parents are driving. She starts screaming. They stop the car. They are at a intersection, and a truck just plows into the car in front of them. That would have been them had she not done that.
Right.
That's absolutely alluding to psychic powers. It's either that or it's a ridiculous coincidence, and I'd be a little insulted by the showrunners if that was a coincidence.
I mean, I thought it was obvious all along that she's had psychic powers. That's what I thought. And apparently the father at that time took her to a psychiatrist and they put her on medication. And she's probably been on medication ever since to kind of suppress that part of her brain. I was just kind of mad at the father for like, your child just saved your life with that gift and you decide she's crazy. I mean, he probably just couldn't deal with the idea of his child having that kind of power. Yeah, so she's not on the pills and things are happening. She saw the deer, right? She saw a vision of the deer that they later do catch.
Yeah, she had a vision of Taissa like eating dirt at one point.
And you know, of all the horrible things in this episode, the thing that maybe will haunt my nightmares is that shot of Taissa like crawling around in the dirt and like eating it and like looking up like with dirt all over her mouth. It's like it wasn't blood, but it, you know, reminds you of that or something. And then of course we have the reveal with Taissa. So it's pretty important what's going on, what's going to happen with Taissa, I guess.
Yeah. I do still stand by what I said, where I think that she's going to go off on her own on like a little separate adventure. She's going to be confronted by a wolf at one point, survive that encounter. I think that's why she has
sleep in trees.
Yes. And get more and more desperate. And maybe she will return to the group suggesting cannibalism, and that might be what makes them all become cannibals.
Yeah, because I was thinking, how are they going to like go into this? How are they going to get so low? You know, at so low a point? Because they're doing okay. They have shelter. They have an actual house. They're sweeping the floor. They're acting pretty domesticated. You know, they're like organized. They have one person doing this, doing that. So how did they get to such a low point?
Well, this show definitely alludes to the idea that they're running out of food. Right?
Yeah, and winter hasn't hit yet. Everything's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. I mean, they're not like stockpiling stuff like they would to survive in this kind of environment.
Yeah, they should.
And there's something wrong with the animals too. I mean, with the deer that's in this thumbnail, and that pretty much like second to last scene.
Right, because of the maggots
The
when
maggots.
they cut it open.
Yeah.
That means it was like sick already.
Right, and we saw that bear had maggots in it too, so there's something infecting the animals.
Oh,
So just to kind of like double back though, because you asked me a question, you said, what does the idea of season 2 affect what I think of the show?
Yeah.
I sat here for most of this episode thinking, okay, well, so have they always thought of multiple seasons? You know, a lot of times the showrunners, they might write it to where they have like a door that they could keep the show going, or if they needed to, they could kind of wrap things up.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have written it to where they could wrap it up by the last episode, but I think that there might be like a bigger picture, and the stuff with the psychic visions might be, you know, a bigger part of the show.
Well, I mean, I don't know how it works. I'm not a TV executive, but I
Right.
assume they had to go to the showrunners and say, hey, your show's doing great. We want to bring it back. Do you have ideas for a season 2? And
Right.
then the writers would have to like give them, you know, like some idea of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So that they can renew it. You know, you have to have the ideas and stuff. So
Yeah.
I do kind of agree with you. I think that this end of this season will be kind of wrapped up, but with maybe a bit of a cliffhanger too, to where they can keep going.
Well, in this episode, for instance, there's that one scene where they had the rat baby birth scene, right? And I was like, oh, wow. Chicken. Okay. Are they birthing? Are they going to this process? Like, are they saying that like months have passed at this point and we're jumping this far ahead? I was like, they can't do that. And then I was like, okay, it's a dream.
It's a bad dream.
But what makes me think is what they're going to do is I think that they're going to like really stretch out their time there. And we're going to see for multiple seasons the plane crash time too.
Yeah, and like think of all the people and like that they don't come back. Like
Right.
maybe we're gonna have a demise per episode, or
Yeah, I don't even know if we're gonna get to that point. You know, I think that like,
well, they're not close. We're on episode 6. There's 10 episodes. I mean, a lot of people would have to die in the next 4 episodes, right?
Right.
So you're probably right.
Right. There's 2 shows we always reference Lost on here. There's another show you might kind of make like a cringy kind of face in a second, but there's that show Arrow, and that show Arrow had the very same kind of structure as this, where it's like the present day. Oliver Queen is Green Arrow, but then there would be these flashbacks to when he was on this island by himself, and he'd go on these little adventures. And in the first season, you thought, oh, he's going to get rescued and it's going to, you know, start in the present day. But no, like for 3 seasons, they would have these flashbacks. So I feel like we might have something like that for Yellowjackets.
Okay. I mean, it is the basis for the show is the plane crash and what happens to them in the wilderness. So
Yeah.
that's cool. That's fine. I'd love to see like all of the things that go down, you know, and I'd be happy if they didn't have to rush it.
Yeah, that's what's at the core of this show. Is at the core of Lost. Is at the core of Arrow. It's this idea of like, there's these people that survived this traumatic thing. What did they go through in the past that affected them? You know, I really love that mechanic. I think it's great for storytelling. So, was there anything else you want to talk about with the abortion scene, or should we move on to other things?
The only, I mean, I did kind of bring it up, but we didn't talk about it, is that Taissa was there for her.
Okay, yes.
So we kind of see their friendship develop more in this episode. They're
Right.
sleeping up in the attic together.
Yeah, that's right.
Shauna confides in Taissa who the father of the baby is, which she
That's
really,
right. It's a good
really
point.
didn't have to do that. But I hope Taissa proves trustworthy. Based on their relationship in the present, they seem to trust one another and do meet up once in a while and seem to like, I guess, respect each other. There doesn't seem to be the negativity that we saw between Natalie and Shauna when she showed up.
Yeah, I agree.
Remember, they started to say little mean things to each other, and Taissa was like, "We're not going to do this, guys."
Right.
So there's a lot of like bad feelings between most of them, but
Yeah.
Shauna and Taissa seem to get along.
Yeah, and in the past there was problems between Jackie and Natalie too, right? In
Mhm.
this episode, so like, you know, usually Jackie's associated with Shauna, and so she would take her side too, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about this episode too, is that we saw like mirror stuff happening from the past in the crash site and then in the present day. Like for instance, Shauna has this conversation like when she gets reunited with her friends that you were just talking about, and she refers to our friend, our favorite person, Misty, as Misty fucking Quigley. She says that in the present day, and then in the past, when she's like, "Who's going to deliver my baby?" Misty fucking Quigley. So it's the same character. They're kind of like mirroring the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And then there was, of course, the mirroring with the scene where Taissa and her wife were driving and the son was in the back seat.
The car crash.
The car crash, right? But he's got his headphones on because they're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not like having a vision or anything like that. And she almost hits the guy. Whereas in Lottie's scene, the parents listen to her screaming, right? So I just like that little mirroring. That's intentional, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I noticed that. Oh, another car crash scene with the child in the back, right?
Yeah.
Where a potentially psychic child, whereas in his case, he doesn't react. I totally noticed that too.
Yeah. You point out a really good thing too, which is this great shot where they showed Lottie and then there was like antlers behind her.
Yeah. There was just like a moment
cool.
where she stands up and gets out of bed.
Yeah.
And it like frames her head with antlers, just really kind of creepy but beautiful visuals. I liked that little moment. And the fact that this episode's called Saints, and you were saying that it probably has a lot to do with Lottie being baptized.
Yes.
Accepting the Lord Jesus Christ as her savior and all of that.
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like, I'm really glad that you guys are on this with us. I'm really glad that you and I have decided to watch this show because it's like proving to me almost every episode that it is sort of a notch better than what I've always thought it was. Like, it's like better quality. Like, it's called Saints, right? And there's so much you could take apart from that. There's the baptism that you just mentioned, right? Then there's the fact that multiple characters kind of talk about virginity and sexuality, right? Saints are often virginal, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
That's an interesting thing that plays into it too, right? And then there's also sacrifice and blood, obviously. That's a big part of this as well. But, you know, she goes...
visions. And you know, the thing about saints is they're often like martyrs and sacrifice. So, I mean, we know Lottie...
doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes to that altar in her vision, right? That was such a cool sequence where she's like wearing that nightgown or whatever, and she climbs up the stairway and she sees the deer with the antlers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she lights that candle. The candle gets a lot brighter. Then she looks up out of the water when she's being baptized, and I can't remember the super Christian girl's name. Sorry, just tell us in the comments.
Yeah, I forgot to.
Anyway, like, and then like it gets...
I want to say Sandra D, but I know that's not it. She just...
Yeah.
She acts like a Sandra D.
Yeah. But like, I like that it got really bright behind her, and then her face got dark.
Like almost like an eclipse, right?
Yes,
That's what it reminded me of.
Yes.
But and I'm not sure why Lottie gasped and was upset by that. But you know, I'm not sure what she saw there.
Yeah, either she was afraid of her friend, like maybe it looked like her friend was getting burned, or like she thought, "Hey, I'm being held underwater, and this is like a dark figure holding me down." So,
or remains to be seen.
Yeah.
We have to talk about Misty.
Of course.
Okay, so as the usual, there's the comedy with Misty, which was that Shauna, or no, what's her name? Natalie and Travis come back. They've been messing around. There's a big thing too in this episode.
Yes.
They've been messing around, and they come back, and everybody kind of knows it.
Yeah.
And Misty's like, I have a secret boyfriend too, and of course Natalie's just like, get away. You know, they're always like, get away from me.
That made me laugh out loud, that part. I like that.
Yeah, she's so funny. And then, and as usual, also with Misty, she does something batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Which, do you think the show is jumping the shark a little bit by having her
drugging the woman?
Kidnapping someone?
I don't think it's jumping the shark. I think it's kind of in line with her character. There's one thing I really wanted to point out with you. Did you notice that when she called the reporter's Jessica Roberts, right? She said that your plan is not working. Do you remember what the reporter says at that point?
No.
She goes, my plan? That's funny. And there's an emphasis on the my, right? So it's like, whose plan is it? And is she even implied that maybe it's like Misty's plan? You know, who knows?
But we know that Taissa hired that reporter.
Right.
Although there may be more layers.
Right.
Maybe the reporter's gotten more jobs than just working for Taissa. Maybe she does have something with Misty. I don't know. But Misty's trying to get information out of her, it looks like, in the next episode.
Yeah.
And the reporter's not giving it up.
That's true, based on the scenes of the next episode. I just thought it was real interesting that she was like, my plan. You know, it's like, obviously something else is going on.
Right. So Misty has no qualms about drugging her.
Yeah.
She's terrifying.
She is. And she's, you know, when we watch the opening credits, there's that scene where you see her injecting candy with a syringe. And it's like, well, who's she going to get that candy to? We're going to see next episode, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Misty, I say this every week, but like Christina Ricci is just like killing it, you know, and she probably will be killing it literally at some point, right?
Yeah.
So there's one thing I wanted to bring up just to see what you guys thought at home too. Shari mentioned that there's a concept called like Wendigoism,
No, Wendigo psychosis. And I got that from Melissa.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You guys give us just some gold to work with too. So yeah, you're one of the commenters said that like people start to act like a Wendigo, right?
Yeah, so Melissa mentioned Wendigo psychosis, and I was like, "What is that?"
Yes.
And I looked it up, and wow, I can't like truly quote it, but it's like actually something people can get that makes them fear that they're starving and turn to cannibalism. Even though, I mean, the implication was that they may not be starving and need to be a cannibal, but it's like something that goes on in your brain that makes you think that, and maybe that's what's going on with Taissa in the present.
I think so. I think this is something that we really need to bring up on this channel at this point, because I think it's a big part of the show. When you look at the marketing and stuff, there's always something with antlers. There's.
Do you want to say what a Wendigo is for people who don't know?
I would like to. Yes. So Wendigo is kind of like like almost like a Bigfoot type creature. It's like a mythical creature that lives up in the north in the wilderness, the really cold climates, and it eats people, right?
But it has the form of like antlers and like some sort of shriveled, starving deer.
Right.
Is kind of how it's been drawn, and I think it's from Native American mythology.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's what a Wendigo is. Not real.
Yes, and Shari and I, we read this one short story. Do you remember the name of the short story?
It's called The Quiet Boy, and they made the movie Antlers based on it.
Yeah, there's this movie Antlers,
and we have a video of that if you want to. Check that out.
Yeah, check it out. Just go to our channel or type in Anchorpete and Antlers or whatever. But the short story is fantastic, and it's written by the guy that made the whole Channel Zero show, right? If you guys are into horror. Anyway, that focuses on a Wendigo situation where it's like, the creature's real. But I think that in this show, it's going to be that like they have that Wendigo psychosis, right? And that they even kind of incorporate that imagery with the antlers too. So I think that's definitely something worth looking into if you're like as big fans of the show as we are.
Right. And so we have all the imagery with the antlers in this episode, including they're actually catching the deer.
Right.
And we're like, it had all that gore kind of hanging from it. I'm really glad they like mentioned what that is, because I was like, what happened with this deer?
Yeah.
They said it was shedding its antlers or something like that.
Yes.
So I didn't know about that. I didn't know that the deer did that.
Yes. So I mean,
educational.
Yeah, and we need to go see that Antlers movie too, because the short story was so good, and and the director I think was someone that we really liked too.
I know we're digressing.
Oh, we're digressing. Whoops.
This is about Yellowjackets.
Yellowjackets. I still got 2 more points about Yellowjackets I want to talk about, but do you have anything you want to say?
You go ahead.
Okay. So 2 things I really liked. I liked when Jeff and Shauna go to Jackie's parents' house and they have that birthday for Jackie, even though she's not there, but they're honoring her memory. And
it sounds like they do it on a yearly basis.
Mm-hmm. Remember the toy or the gift that they gave Shauna?
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
Right.
A rabbit.
Right. It's so interesting, right? Because it's like maybe there's even more meaning to her killing rabbits and eating them, right? Because it's like her friend, apparently, according to the parents,
liked rabbits,
right?
Yeah, but they could do a flashback where Jackie's like, "What's a rabbit anyway?" Right. So do the parents really know their daughter?
Correct. Right. And so I think that maybe it's symbolic of her killing the rabbits in the first episode or 2. Because it's like, that's all about the idea of like what people think about them, about the Yellowjackets people versus what's real.
Yeah. And like, it's also kind of like shattering the parents' idea of what Jackie was.
Right.
That she wasn't really what they believed. And the husband.
Oh, that's the part.
Is that what you're going to say?
So good. Yeah.
He just like tells him, hey, we were sleeping together when Jackie was alive.
Yeah. That was awkward as shit.
I really liked the husband in this episode, Jeff. I kind of liked him in this episode. He really stood up for Shauna. He acted like he treated her like he really cares. He didn't have to say all those things. And I don't know. It made me question, is maybe he not having an affair? I know you can love someone and care about them and still be having an affair, but on this show, are we really sure? We're not. We just saw him walking out of a hotel with a woman once. Yeah.
I mean, it seems kind of obvious that he was, but maybe there'll be a twist. And
maybe he's really working on inventory.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I'm just saying he seems like he cares about Shauna.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great demonstration of that. And it was really cool that like she's getting texts from Adam while he's doing that at the dinner. And then it seems like maybe they're kind of turning a page, and maybe he might be a good husband and she might be more into him. But then at the end of the episode, he goes off to go check on the inventory again.
Yeah, I have some like thoughts about Shauna. Like just from the very beginning of the show, to me, she seemed more interested and her own best friend. And like, it's almost like that's why she picked Jeff to like sleep with him, because he was Jackie's boyfriend.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I'm not saying like she's a lesbian, but she just sort of seemed obsessed with or jealous of her own best friend, to where she wanted what she had,
like
or wanted
her.
to be really close with her or something.
Yeah.
So I still feel like she doesn't really love Jeff.
Yes.
She just picked him because it's Jackie's boyfriend.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really seen a whole lot of like how that came to be, I guess.
Yeah.
But I suspect something like that's going on, because in this episode, he's like, I really love you. She doesn't say it back, you know. She seems to have a really hard time. And remember when they were having the marital problems with the counselor, he's all for having, you know, kinky sex with her, and she's kind of like, ugh, I don't want to do this, you know.
I don't want to pretend I'm going to buy furniture from you.
She also reveals in the breakfast, which I thought was funny, I don't like my daughter.
Yeah, that was another great moment. Yeah, I don't like my daughter. Yeah,
and he's like, she's kidding.
Right. And she's like, no, I don't. Yeah. It's really good stuff. So that was the one point I wanted to bring up, and I'm just trying to think if I can bring up my other point. Oh, I had one other laugh out loud moment too, when the coach with the one leg goes to talk to Travis about like, oh, you can't get Natalie pregnant, and he has like 800 condoms in his hand. And the guy's like, "Where we just go to Seattle for 4 days?" I thought that was great too.
Yeah. That comment was funny, and it was awkward and uncomfortable, but go coach, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of watching out for them.
He's a good guy, and he's in this impossible situation. So.
And he lost a leg.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he could want to die, you know, instead he's trying to help.
Yeah.
I kind of hate to see what's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
Misty's probably going to happen to him. But,
I think you're right.
Because he's healthy right now.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's any other point. Did you have anything else?
What do you think of Natalie and Travis? And what do you think of like Natalie in the present sleeping with her friend? And
Oh, okay, very good. I'm glad you brought that up. So first of all, Natalie and Travis. So I know that the actor that's played Travis has liked our tweets with these episodes before too. So if he's watching, dude, you're doing an awesome job on the show. I'm really feeling for your character. The girl that plays Natalie, she's probably my favorite actress on the whole show. She does an amazing job, and we've never mentioned this before, but like she really does a good job.
She sounds like Juliette Lewis.
Right, sounded like Juliette Lewis. So I'm very impressed. I thought it was a very touching scene where she kind of explained her sexual past, and he explained his sexual past. I kind of knew that he was going to say that he had never had sex before.
I kind of thought she was going to say, well, me too.
Right. But it was still a pretty small number. It was like one guy and like a one-time thing.
They're still kids, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's sad that she gets slut-shamed apparently at school when she doesn't have much experience at all, you know?
Yeah.
High school's so awful in that way.
Yeah. And then in the present day, you know, Natalie sells her car to get money to pay for, you know, these people are trying to extort her, or is that the right way to say it? Whatever. Blackmail her, right? Mm-hmm. And so she goes and she gets that Nate guy with a Y to drive her, and then they end up getting together too. But I really like the scene where she talked to his son and gave him some soccer tips, because you start to, at this point, kind of, you forget that the reason why they're there is because they're on a soccer team, and that's such a big thing for them. And that's a nice way to just kind of bring it back, I thought.
Right. And it's kind of interesting to think that some of these girls are really great soccer players, some of the best, you know, and it's just another thing they lost in the plane crash of all the things they're going to lose, you know. It's just that possibility for their future. And they have a really good shot with her, like giving the advice, and the son takes the advice and does well, and she gets really sad and she has to like walk away. And they haven't showed a whole lot of Juliette Lewis having like feelings other than anger, right? So like kind of seeing that vulnerable moment with her, I thought was really nice. Right.
Juliette Lewis kind of excels when she kind of plays this sort of like kind of, you know, rough sort of, you know, I don't know what words I'm looking for, but like where she's kind of like, I don't care, or I'm like a badass.
I disagree. I love her career, and I always like her when she's like a little innocent thing.
The only thing okay, so maybe I haven't seen that much with her, right? But I know, like, I think of like From Dusk Till Dawn. She's like a teenager in that. She's kind of innocent in that. And I think of like what do you call it? Old School, where she's like,
oh yeah, she's not innocent in that.
No.
She's hilarious in that.
She's real funny in that.
Yes.
But she's great. We were talking about one day doing a video on Cape Fear, because that's like one of her early roles.
She's just like very young in that movie, and she was really good. Right, that's the first thing I ever saw her in, and she's really good right away.
Yeah,
but she's also an innocent teenager in that. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it, right? So, if you guys, we'd love you guys leaving stuff in the comments. If you haven't liked and subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. The more, the merrier. Christmas is coming up this week. For those of you that celebrate, Merry Christmas. We hope to be with you afterwards. We're going to watch Sherry's face change for 1 second. I also have 2 channels besides this one. I have the Lasser Cast. So if you like the Pete part of the show, come on over to the Lasser Cast, which is on here. And we talk about horror shows, me and my friend Danny, horror movies and stuff. And I have another channel if you're into comic books. It's called Comic Books Transformed. I figured I'd plug those too.
Yeah, and if you've been watching us and haven't subscribed, please do, because last week I really wanted to put out a poll where I asked some of you guys what you thought of things, and you're not allowed to do a poll apparently on YouTube unless you have 1,000 subscribers.
Yes, and this
I don't know what that has to do with it, but
right, and
it made me grumpy. I can't poll.
yeah, get us a poll, guys. Come on, we need a poll. So
POLO.
Right,
in case it's not clear.
Like Festivus for Christmas too. But anyway, the more the merrier, and this show has really helped get us more viewers, and we appreciate the comments too. So whatever happens, we will be here next Sunday after Christmas. Talk about Yellowjackets episode 7, right?
That's right.
All right. Thanks, y'all.